TC, you're all too familiar with this stuff, the predetermined decisions by the organization. Instead of prioritizing getting a win, taking a pitcher out who was rolling. What'd you think of Mendoza's explanation for taking Scott out?
Well, one of the things I really liked about Carlos is that he's accountable. He stood up there in front, hey, this is why we did it, and I understand it. You know, you don't like it because he's pitching so well, and as we've talked about before, Sal, there's nights where, hey, it's working. You know, the nights it's working, let him pitch. But you know, you're trying to get this guy through a season. You know, he threw 90-some pitches the last time out, so I'm sure they wanted to back him down. I'm sure before the game started today, they said probably 75 pitches. They probably say, hey, let's cut him off at 75 today, and so they let him have one extra hitter, and they said, okay, that's enough. And I don't like it,
right,
but that is how the game is played today. And there's got to be some place along the line where we start training our pitching staff in the minor leagues so that they can get through some of these innings. You're looking at guys today, they're throwing 75 innings in the minor leagues in a season.
Yeah.
And so they come to the big leagues, and now you're in a pennant race where innings are important, and you know they're just not ready to give you those multiple innings. But I understand what Carlos is going through, and I'll tell you what, I've talked to him about this, you know, on the phone, and I'll tell you that's a tough situation to be in because you want to win the game, but yet you're strapped with decisions that you made before the game.
Now, look, I know it's an organizational thing. If they could tell me that it's going to prevent guys from getting hurt, that's one thing. They cannot because pitchers still get hurt. So to me, it shows that they're not prioritizing winning baseball games, which is what fans care about. It's what players care about. I'm assuming it's what managers care about it. It's his rookie season. I know Mendoza is not going by the book, which is one of the things I love about him. But do you think a manager with more tenure would maybe have a little more say to at least push him through that final out in that sixth inning?
Well, I go back early in the year where, you know, we talked where Carlos, I cannot remember who was pitching. It might have been Quintana, but he let him have that extra hit.
Yeah.
But he was an experienced pitcher. So you have a little bit more, if you have those guys out there that have a little bit more experience where you have a little more trust in what they're going to do. And yeah, you're right, Sal. I'll tell you something. I'm sorry, but, you know, years ago, you trained pitchers to pitch. And you got their arms in condition where they could give you innings. And now the health is so important. And guys are still getting hurt because they're not throwing enough.
Yeah, on the one hand, I understand why the Mets did this. Like you said, they talked about it before the game. It was 75 pitches, etc. And yet, Carlos Mendoza, David Stearns, all of these Mets official types have said we're not putting an innings limit on Christian Scott this year. Baseball has become more advanced than that. You don't put innings limits. You don't say we're not going over 30 of what he did last year. Instead, you're looking at biomechanical markers. You're testing these guys regularly. So you put all that together, but then you get to a game like this and you say, well, he couldn't pitch to one more batter. Because what's the worst thing that happens with that one batter? He throws 6-7 pitches, a lengthy at bat, guy gets on base, you have to bring the reliever in anyway, and that's worst case. Maybe he gets him on one pitch, one out. So to me, it's not totally consistent with the messaging, which is that we're not limiting this guy, but this is where we're at.
Yeah, I think you guys have made good points that it would be one thing if this definitely worked, right? This idea, but it feels like science theater sometimes where we're imagining, like we don't know that 75 pitches is a problem, but 77 isn't. That's nonsense. And so this idea, I mean, obviously the Mets have a little bit more behind it, I would imagine, than just this is the number, but it does feel like we are acting as if we know something we don't know. Because Tyler Glasnow got hurt, he has not thrown that many innings in his career, and Sandy Alcantara got hurt, and he throws 200 innings every year. So it doesn't. What we do seem to know is that it's high velocity, and Christian Scott is not a 102-mile-an-hour guy, and so maybe he can hold up. Maybe we should teach him. Maybe this is when you find out what he can do.